In January of 2022, I uploaded the following meme to my channel.
I love it. I love it.
Sorry, Darkside Phil. As you can tell by the title, it was to commemorate my acquisition of the Spellbound Fez. I paid 1,070 United States dollars for that bad boy, and up until October of 2025, I rocked the shit out of it. I stopped rocking it because I sold it for all this crap, and then I thought, how f***ing sick would it be if I priced this on backpack.tf? I understood well the journey I had signed myself up for. In order to price the Spellbound Fez, I would have to price every item that was involved in the sale. Also, I was on a 3-month time limit, as sales older than 3 months cannot be used for price suggestions. And so, I began my journey. Actually, before I began this journey, I noticed you weren't subscribed, so get to it. Thanks. When I had completed the trade, the Scream Fortress 2025 event was still ongoing. Because a lot of unusual items involved in the trade existed as a result of the Scream Fortress 2025 event, more could still be created, and they were the most likely items to generate more sales as a result of this phenomenon. Because of this, I decided to hold off on pricing those, instead opting to price some of the items with more mature markets in the trade. Flash expository time. Movements. Do you see this? This is a movement. Green movements are in date, yellow movements are going out of date soon, and red movements are out of date. A movement just means that the item moved from one owner to another owner. A movement could be a sale, a gift, a withdrawal, or a deposit to a cash trading site bot, someone falling victim to a scam, or something else entirely. It was my job to investigate as many movements as possible to try and find only the types of movements that were useful to pricing the Spellbound Fez. Sales. Back to these items with more mature markets. I had to investigate movements for them first, and these included the following taunts. Bear in mind that this does not count any of the items whose movements led to no conclusive price suggestion being made, which I am not counting in this total counter that you see on your screen. One such example is the Dragonfly's Nature Neck Snap taunt. In this case, I investigated all of these movements and the data was inconclusive. So in this part of my journey, I investigated the Hellish Inferno Schadenfreude taunt, 5 movements. The Ocean Reef High 5 taunt, 21 movements. The Snowfall Scorchers solo, 8 movements. The Mystic Fusion Proletariat Pose Down, 4 movements. The Dead Man's Party Kazatsky Kick, 11 movements. The Yeti Punch Unusual Fire, 66 movements!
A Yeti Punch Unusual Fire, like why am I here? This just feels so goofy. I'm out here price suggesting a goddamned Yeti Punch Unusual Fire. Simply, you tripping. I almost feel like I need to take a breath before I get started on this. This is...
2 hours later.
Oh, this is so much work.
The Dead Man's Party Luxury Lounge, 7 movements. In total, I investigated 122 movements on the first part of my journey. Of course, it would have been foolish to think I was even getting close to done here. I knew that pricing the Knifestorm Le Inspecteur was about to be a gargantuan feat on its own.
Yeah, man. This is exactly what Xbox wants. Xbox will take this.
The Knifestorm Le Inspecteur was a huge part of the trade. In fact, it was the single most valuable item on the other end of the trade, and honestly, a video commemorating the road to pricing the Knifestorm Le Inspecteur alone would be appropriate. In order to price the Knifestorm Le Inspecteur, I had to price the following unusuals, where I investigated 51 total movements. Again, this does not include items that I could not submit a price suggestion for due to inconclusive/discrepant data. The Charging Catalyst ICU, 3 movements. The Radiant Rivalry Impact Impaler, 18 movements. The Summer Wave Buy a Life, 24 movements. That brings the count to 160 total movements. Let's add one more, since I technically also investigated the movement to price the Knifestorm Le Inspecteur itself. The Knifestorm Fez's price suggestion was submitted way ahead of schedule. I had completed it on October 29th, and I planned to get it done no later than November 7th. You can tell from the screenshot though that the suggestion originally failed and I had to submit another one. More on that later. I had November 7th as my deadline because this was when the Scream Fortress update ended. This was so that I could move on to pricing the unusual taunts created during the event from Chapter 1. However, I was so early that I decided on price suggesting more unusuals for fun. One guy from SP Bacon's trading Discord even started tuning into my stream and requested that I submit price suggestions for items of interest to him. He found the process so helpful to understanding the market that he felt inspired to create his own price suggestion. I was just kind of impressed by this dude's willingness to jump into something so complex, time-consuming, and challenging. In an attempt to give you, dear viewer, the price suggesting pill, I have asked this formerly nameless protege, Crayons, to answer a few questions about price suggesting that I thought new viewers might have. I hope this is inspiring and helpful for you. Why did you decide you want to try out price suggesting?
Pricing looked pretty fun. Watched your stream after you helped me price the lumber cap and thought pricing looked pretty fun.
What have been the most rewarding parts and the biggest challenges of price suggesting?
It feels great having the suggestions get accepted, and although I'm far from it, getting free premium is also pretty nice. Biggest challenge has definitely been dealing with minis. Sometimes it's pretty chill, but other times it's a huge pain.
Hi, so I'm in post right now, and I realize that some of you might not know what minis are. Minis, otherwise known as mini suggestions, are price suggestions that you make to price items that you will need in order to price another item. So, for example, in the last chapter I talked about how the Radiant Rivalry Impact was something I needed to price in order to price the Knifestorm Lay Inspector, so I had to make a mini suggestion for the Radiant Rivalry Impact Impaler, you could say. Okay, back to the interview.
How did, does, or will price suggesting impact your trading journey, if at all?
Price suggesting has allowed me to better judge how much unusuals could go for by looking at similar effects/hats or looking through the trade history to see what the unusual has sold for in the past, if it has sold.
What would you tell a trader who is tentatively interested in price suggesting?
Definitely give it a go. Surprisingly fun in my opinion. And you don't know if you will enjoy until you try it. Plus it can really help with your trading knowledge, so for me it's a win-win.
I found out at the same time that this protege saga was happening that Ozest, the guy who sold the Knifestorm Lay Inspector, forgot to mention that Counter-Strike 2 items were also included in the sale, which over doubled what the Knifestorm Lay Inspector was originally price suggested at. Still, pricing the Counter-Strike items on the Steam community market was maybe an extra 10 minutes total. So I was able to post an updated price suggestion on November 1st, still 6 days ahead of schedule. The price suggestion for the Knifestorm Fez was eventually accepted on November 13th, marking a huge milestone for this project. After the Scream Fortress 2025 event had ended, I could get working on pricing the taunts that were created during the event. I made the following price suggestions to cultivate an accurate sale price for the Spellbound Fez once and for all. In total, I looked at 124 exchanges on this chapter of my journey, once again excluding items where a price could not be determined. Phantasmal Fog Flying Colors, 9 exchanges. Morbidly Beast Flying Colors, 18 exchanges. Summer Wave Scooty Scoot, 12 exchanges. Frosty Silver Victory Lap. This was originally not priceable, but I sold it on the Steam market so I could price it later on. Otherwise I would have done it in Chapter 1. 3 exchanges. Morbidly Beast Dueling Banjo, 32 exchanges. Sandy Misdirector, 18 exchanges. Void Crawler's Balloon Bouncer, 24 exchanges. And the Morbidly Beast Shanty Shipmate, 8 exchanges. The total count at this point is 298 exchanges investigated. I was very nearly there. The end result is exhaustion, but in a good way. I thought it would be a fitting way to wrap up a... Are you f***ing kidding me?
Okay, you know what? I have to wait for median pricing on the Steam market.
I had to wait an additional 10 days or so because at the time, the Steam community market did not have median pricing available for the Counter-Strike 2 items involved in the sale. For those not in the know about median pricing, look at these Steam market sales. Do you see how they show you multiple data points over a single day? Now look what happens when these sale dates turn a month old. The Steam market takes the median data point of the day. The way this transpired actually makes me want to make a push to standardize how Counter-Strike 2 items are priced when used in TF2 trades in backpack.tf price suggestions. If the Lay Inspector and the Fez are any indication, despite the 7-day trade protection that Valve added, people are still using Counter-Strike 2 items in TF2 trades. Be on the lookout for that video. In fact, while writing the script, I also sold my circling peace sign Old Man Frost for 350 keys and some Counter-Strike 2 items, cementing the fact that Counter-Strike 2 items are still traded in the TF2 sphere despite the trade protection. At the end of it all, the final price for the Spellbound Fez was 3,850 keys. I submitted the final price suggestion on November 26th, and it was accepted at last on... well, it hasn't been accepted yet. For this video, I investigated 298 exchanges, and I added an additional exchange because I investigated my own exchange where I sold the Fez. I submitted a total of 18 successful price suggestions in order to price the Fez. I had a really good time doing it all. I learned a lot about taunts, and it was a mentally stimulating way to engage with my hobby. If you are interested in learning more about Team Fortress 2 items so that you can profit, you should check out these videos that I made. You could also tune in to my live streams where I enjoy pricing Team Fortress 2 items live on backpack.tf. If you made it this far, please accept my gratitude for watching.
I did all of this for a fucking content piece, but also because I like price suggesting. That was fun. That was fun. Thank you everyone for joining me on the road. Like, if you joined me, whether it was for whether you're someone that came in for a minute in Street Smart Chic, or whether you're like Crayons, who's been with me for probably maybe 25% of the hours I've been doing this. I appreciate the fuck out of you. I think it'd be a lot more maddening being here alone and trying to grind this shit out by myself. That'd be a lot. It was a lot regardless, but you guys made it a lot in a good way.